Calling the Committee on Human Services 3 o'clock agenda. This meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 3:20 p.m. on February 3rd, 2022, conference room 225 and via video conference. And a public notice will be posted on the legislator's website. Witnesses, your audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. Each testifier will have 2 minutes to testify. If there's a technical glitch during your time to testify, we may have to move on to the next person due to time constraints. We appreciate your understanding and we remind you that the committee has your written testimony. I'll be reading a list of individuals who submitted written testimony for each measure. We apologize if the closed captioning does not accurately transcribe the names. If you're interested in reviewing the written testimony, please go to the legislator's website and you will find a link on the status page for the measure. So first up on the 3 o'clock agenda is SB 2002 relating to fair housing reasonable accommodations, which codifies administrative rule definition of assistance animal, clarifies the type of verification an individual may provide to substantiate a reasonable accommodation request for specific assistance animal, specifies the possession of a vest or other distinguishing animal garment, tag, or registration document commonly purchased online and purporting to identify an animal as a service animal or assistance animal does not constitute valid verification of a disability-related need for an assistance animal. So first up, we have William Hoshijo of the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission in support. Please proceed.
Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair, members. The Bill Hoshijo for the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission. The HCRC supports Senate Bill 2002 with a concern regarding the verification provisions in Section 3 of the bill, where those verification provisions do not track and codify the verification provisions of our current administrative rule. I'll call your attention to about the middle of page 2 of our testimony, where we address this concern. The proposed amendment to HRS 515.39 differs substantively from HAR 1246.306A1 in its verification provisions. The bill provides that an owner or other person engaging in the real estate transaction may request that a person claiming a disability provide verification to establish the disability-related need for a specific assistance animal as a reasonable accommodation. Whereas the rule provides that an owner or other person engaging in a real estate transaction may request verification that the assistance animal is needed to alleviate one or more symptoms of the person's disability. The proposed amended statute or amendment to the statute is different from the rule, and the rule incorporates the fair housing law definition of an assistance animal, which includes an animal that alleviates one or more identified symptoms of a person's disability. And the proposed statute more narrowly defines verification, and it requires a conclusory verification, a legal conclusion that the authorized that those authorized to provide verification upon request may not be qualified to reach. That's the conclusion that the assistance animal is needed as a reasonable accommodation. So it goes to the ultimate issue. The HCRC supports the bill if Section 3 of the bill is amended to track and codify the current rule verification provision, which would address our concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we proceed further, I want to acknowledge the presence of my committee members. On Zoom, we have Senator Ocasio, we have Senator Ihara, and we have Senator Favela. And present with me is Senator Misalucha and myself. So I apologize to members. We have a full house today. Thank you. So next up, we don't have any other person who has registered to testify. Anybody on Zoom who wishes to testify on SB 2002? Okay, seeing none, we do, well, I'm not there
Oh,
yet.
sorry.
Okay. We do have written support from Ken Hiraki, Hawaii Realtors, and NALAN, Community Association Institute. No one else having provided written testimony. So members, questions, and I know Senator Misalucha does have a question for the only witness, and that's Mr. Hoshijo. Mr. Hoshijo, are you still present? Okay, thank you. Senator Misalucha has a question for you.
Aloha,
Please
Bill. How are you? Long time no see.
Aloha, good to see you.
True. Okay. So as an animal lover myself, I just wanted to know whether the Civil Rights Commission has had test cases or complaints of this nature, and how have we handled it without this amendment, this proposed amendment?
Yeah, well, that goes to the effect of the rule. The current rule has a full force and effect of law. So it's basically a restatement in our state law of the current federal and state fair housing law regarding assistance animals in housing. So we have had complaints. We actually, in terms of our caseload, we have a high number percentage relevant to our entire caseload of disability related claims or complaints in our fair housing section. But in answer to your question, the way we've been able to address it is that the rule has full force and effect of law, and it's the standard that we apply.
So on your amendment, because it's like the onus is on the current way the law is configured.
Mhm.
It says the owner may request. Can you maybe provide some clarification as to who has to prove what based on your amendment, your proposed amendment?
Sure. The current rule reads this way, and this is what we're actually suggesting. So where the bill would amend our statute to add the language, I'm sorry, at page 6 of the bill, our rule now reads, provided further that if the disability related need, and this is the rule, for an assistance animal is not readily apparent, an owner or other person engaging in the real estate transaction may request that a person claiming a disability provide verification of, oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading.
That's the old rule, right?
I'm reading from the wrong column, I'm sorry. This is the current rule. If the disability related need for an assistance animal is not readily apparent, an owner or other person engaging in a real estate transaction may request verification that the assistance animal is needed to alleviate one or more symptoms of the person's disability. Verification may be provided by a letter or other communication from the person's treating healthcare professional, mental health professional, or social worker. So it is different substantively from the bill language. And while you're looking at that, I would note that both the, that the rule definition of assistance animal includes or means that an animal is needed to perform disability-related work, services, or tasks for the benefit of a person with a disability, or is needed to provide emotional support that alleviates one or more identified symptoms or effects of a person's disability. So the verification provisions of the rule track back to the definition.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I have a question, Mr. Hoshijo. If we make the change as you requested on page 2, which is to require the person engaging in a real estate transaction to request rather than, I guess, provide verification that the assistant animals need to alleviate one or more symptoms of the person's disability. Would that satisfy your objection?
Yes, it would. So you'd be changing the language on page 6 of the bill to track the language of the rule.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, and that would be really lines 12 to 13.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so any other questions, committee members, based upon our questions? Okay, seeing none. Moving on.
Thank you, Chair.
And that is SB 2194, which is to relating to the Neighbor Islands Blind and Visually Impaired Service Pilot Program. Requires the Department of Human Services to establish a Neighbor Islands Blind and
Wait.
Visually.
You're not doing
I'm
2194?
sorry, you're right.
2194.
I did not read it right. Sorry. SB 2194 is relating to service animals again. Specifies that anxiety and emotional disorders are disabilities for which service animals may be trained to assist, permits animals that provide emotional support to qualify as service animals. Okay, first up, Department of Human Services comments. Department of Human Services present for 2194.
Hello, Chair. This is Judy Peterson with the Department of Human Services, and we have another person who's in the waiting room who admitted that would be testifying on this bill. I apologize.
Okay, so who would that person be?
Her name is Leah Diaz.
So is Leah Diaz, could IT let Leah Diaz in? Okay, so Judy, you don't think you can testify for Leah?
I can just stand. Oh, I see her here, but we would be standing on the.
Oh, I see it. I see.
On the
her.
written testimony. Yes, but I do apologize. We would be standing on a written testimony, and if you have questions, hopefully she can respond to them.
Okay, so is that correct, Leah Diaz for Human Services?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was just admitted. Yes.
Okay, you're standing on your testimony.
Standing on
Okay.
testimony, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please hang around until we move to the next bill in case members have questions.
Will do.
So next up, SB 24, for budget and finance providing comments. And that's only written testimony. And Human Bates, HMS DVR for vocational rehab providing comments. And in support, National Federation of the Blind, James Gashel. I saw him here. James?
Yes, Madam Chair, I don't think I can turn on my video. It didn't let me, but this is James Gashel, National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii.
IT, can you okay, there, I see him. Please
Okay,
proceed.
yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm testifying on SB 2437 if we've moved on to that bill. And just to say very quickly, we very strongly support this bill. It would help to bring services to our blind people on the neighbor islands. It would expand use of volunteerism to do this. This bill passed the House
Yeah.
Did I screw up
during
again?
this,
It's just, yeah, in the wrong, yeah.
during the session.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gashel.
Yes.
It's my fault.
Oh,
And that's because we were listening to SB 2194
I'm
and we're
sorry.
not yet at SB 2437. I apologize. I will call you back again. That's the reason why you were not in. For some reason, I am not altogether there today, sorry. So
No
next
problem.
up,
I'll just wait.
yes, thank you very much. Next up, it would be SB Hawaii Disability Rights Center.
Yes. Hi.
Comment, Louis?
Yes, I'm here, Senator. I don't know if you can see me.
No,
Uh,
IT, can we let him in?
okay.
Louis Echick for Hawaii Disability Rights.
Okay,
Center.
well, thank you.
Comments.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator and members. It's good to see all of you. If you look at my comments, I mean, I think it just indicates that it's not totally clear what the bill will do or what it won't do. So as I indicated, we generally like the idea. I think it adds more protection for people with disabilities. And so I think that's clearly a good thing. At the same time, I don't doubt that this will, conflict with the ADA, and I could see businesses potentially not being happy about it. There could be a lot of unintended consequences. I'm just not sure. Normally what happens is we get a chance to talk to our colleagues and other stakeholders and say, well, what do you think about this bill? And, I haven't had a chance to do that, certainly. But I wanted to put something in there so that we would have a seat at the table if the bill was going to advance. I'd be curious to see if the Civil Rights Commission has any thoughts, certainly, because they would be involved with enforcing it. Our state law has often been more protective than the federal law. And so I think, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being inconsistent with the ADA if we're being more protective. So I certainly think that that's a good thing. There's a lot of abuses of emotional support animals, and we've been against all those abuses that have occurred. But at the same time, emotional support animals do serve a very legitimate function. And there's a lot of people who have those kinds of mental health issues that are helped by emotional support animals. And so that's really what I wanted to try to acknowledge and at least have that position heard for the committee's consideration. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Louis. Okay, next up we have no one else having registered to testify by Zoom. Is there anyone who is listening and who has registered late and wants to testify regarding SB 2194 relating to service animals? Okay, seeing none. We have Shannon Rudolph testifying in support. We have a written testimony. We have Nalan for Community Association Institute, LAC, in opposition, written testimony. Members, any questions regarding SB 2194 for the witnesses? And I believe we have just Human Services and Louis Urchin. Okay, none, no questions? Okay, moving on. Now we have SB 2437, which is the Deaf and Blind Task Force Neighbor Islands Blind and Visually Impaired Service Pilot Program. Requires Department of Human Services to establish a Neighbor Islands Blind and Visually Impaired Service Pilot Program that provides training and other services to blind or visually impaired individuals residing on the neighbor islands, and requires the DHS to report to the legislature before the regular session of 2025. And I see James Gashel is here, and I'm gonna, because you've already started testifying, I'm gonna have you testify in support for the National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii. Please proceed, James.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair and committee members. I'm James Gashel, and I'm testifying on behalf of the National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii, fully in support of SB 2437. As I was saying previously, this bill is virtually identical to a bill that passed the House in early March of 2020, and then about a week later the legislature shut down and no bills really advanced during the remainder of that session, and due to budgetary reasons it was not brought forward during the 2021 session. So we're really hoping that this bill will be considered. I note the testimony of the Department of Human Services highlighting that the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation does provide many of the services that are outlined in this bill. And of course, that's true. However, the emphasis of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is on employment. This bill doesn't focus on employment so much as it does on outreach to our blind brothers and sisters on the neighbor islands who desperately need in-home services to provide a personal adjustment, self-sufficiency, and independence, and we urge this bill be passed. Mahalo for your consideration.
Okay, thank you so much, James. Okay, next up, Department of Human Services providing comments for vocational rehab. Leah Diaz, please
Thank
proceed.
you. Thank you. Yes, we stand on our written testimony, appreciating the intent and offering comments.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, please stick around. There are going to be questions. Next up, we have Virgil Stinnett in support. Is Virgil Stinnett present?
Yes, I am. Hello?
Can someone let him in? Okay, please proceed. We see you now.
Oh, okay, I'm glad. My name is Virgil Stinnett, and I've gone through training programs at Ho'opono in Louisiana. And these are, like Mr. Gashel mentioned, it's for people that want to get back into employment. But there are a lot of blind folks out there that are not ready, or, you know, because blindness is new, or it's been a while for them, and they haven't had training. And that's the key factor is, you know, if they could get some kind of skill going, even if they don't have to go to a place like Ho'opono, because Ho'opono is, if your goal is to be back and employed, an employed individual. And so this will just build the one thing that blind people need when they're newly blinded is, or been blind for a while, is that they need confidence. They need to be able to navigate, and to get some of these skills really builds on that. And hopefully, we hope that in the future, those folks that have gained some of these skills through this pilot program would then choose to be, that they're ready to be employed, because now they feel a little more confident in themselves. And so this is a great deal, especially for the neighbor island folks, because they don't have any service. They really don't. And I mean, you have the senior blind programs that have some kind of budget, but what about the folks that are not senior blind or not in the DOE system? You know, those are the ones that this thing is really catching on, because they might not be ready for employment. So again, I hope that you support this bill, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stinnett. Okay, next up, we have Katie Kine in support. And I see that you're on Zoom. Please proceed.
Aloha. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and committee members. I appreciate you taking the time today. I stand strongly on my written testimony and would probably be duplicating much of what Mr. Gashel and Mr. Stinnett said. I will say from personal experience, having worked for the Department of Human Services in the older blind program at one time, I was sent to some of the neighbor islands, and as one individual handling a caseload for any one of the numbers of blind people it is quite an overwhelming task, and a supplemental support system like this bill proposes in a pilot program would really enhance the staff of Ho'opono and Department of Human Services in the jobs they're already doing. So again, I stand strongly on this testimony and hope you are in support of this bill moving forward, and appreciate your time. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Khan.
You're very welcome.
Next up, Brandon Young in support. Please proceed, Mr. Young.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Brandon Young, and I just I'm standing on my testimony in support of the bill. I just have the same feelings as my other colleagues, so thank you for hearing our bill, and we wish you support it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anybody else? And I see, Louis, that you're still on. You haven't been turned off. Do you wish to testify on SB 2437, the Neighbor Island?
No, if you want to turn me off, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. IT, you can turn off Louis Urchet.
Okay.
This video. Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to testify on SB 2437? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions of the live witnesses? Okay, yes, so Senator Ocasio.
So I have questions for Department of Human Services.
Yes.
Oh yeah, hi, thank you. So can you dive in a little bit deeper of what aspects of this bill would supplement DHS's current services?
Well, as the members of the National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii have mentioned, we do have staff who serve individuals who are seeking employment, and we do have staff who train individuals who are registered as what we call older individuals who are blind, who are eligible for our program. We do not currently serve people who are not eligible for either of those programs. So this would supplement by serving those who are not eligible for our programs. I hope that answers your question.
How do you respond to testifiers, especially those who are blind, who claim participation in Ho'opono can be significant disruption in their lives during that time of the training?
I agree that if they were on neighbor islands and they would need to, if they wanted to come to Oahu for our residential training program, that would be a disruption in their lives. You know, it's an investment of time, and it's primarily for individuals who are seeking employment who come to Oahu. For those on the neighbor islands, they receive services on their home islands.
Thank you. I'll yield for now, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I have a question, Ms. Diaz.
Yes.
And that is on the second page of your testimony, you referred to that federal funding requirements for vocational rehab and independent living services prevent you from working on services provided to individuals who are not eligible. So if we fund this, and I'm leaning towards passing this bill because it doesn't sound like you have a comparable service to the neighbor island blind people, that it won't be a part of DVR, right? It'll be a different department that you could put this pilot program in, because otherwise the federal funding for DVR would be in jeopardy.
That is a concern. There are other nonprofits perhaps in the community. The Centers for Independent Living could be one.
So if we fund this program, will DHS then RFP contract out to Center of Independent Living, or a nonprofit who applies for an RFP?
I suppose that could be possible.
Okay, so it sounds like we can pass this bill and not jeopardize federal funding, right? So long as you don't put it in as part of the DVR division.
that sounds like a possibility to me.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna move on to the next bill. And that is SB 2919, which is required relating to disability health disparity. Requires the Department of Human Services to submit a report focused on the health disparities experienced by the individuals with disabilities in Hawaii before the regular session of 2023. Okay, first up, we have Department of Human Services comments, and Judy Peterson, MTD. Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. We stand on a written testimony. We appreciate the intent of the measure. However, we do want to note that we do not have access to the population health level information that is requested in the report. So that's it. I'll be here for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We have Dainty Bartoldas in support.
Thank you, Senator. Dainty Bartoldas, Executive Administrator for the Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Thank you for hearing this bill, and we're in strong support. I'll be here for any questions. Thank you so much. We'll stand on our report.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the only other person registering to testify by Zoom is Mark Vieira in support. Please proceed.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Listen, first of all, thank you so much for all you do and for the services that you do provide. When my wife and I realized we could have services for our daughter who has developmental delays, Alicia, she's 22 now. We were so excited and hopeful. I mean, like, I can barely describe how we felt, but it was amazing, like tears, you know? It felt so good to be approved for services after all the advocating, just amazing. I've been advocating for my daughter for more than 22 years, actually, 22 years and 6 months or something like that. I'll tell you a story about that I think will demonstrate the need for services, for more medical services for people, especially the people that don't have a voice. And I'll describe it in this way. So yeah, we were approved for DD services. Very excited, very hopeful. My wife and I went to a graduation at Palamanui. This was for like a 3-day, I don't know, a 2 or 3 day kind of a thing, helping those with special needs maybe identify what they would like to do for work, that type of thing. And of course, we go there, there's food, there's lay, there's this and that. And it's, it's really exciting. I don't know if it was the CEO, but someone from ARC of Kona was there. Just really, really sharp person. I mean, gave a wonderful talk about, their needs, and just really well-spoken, well-dressed, everything, super impressed. And at the end, I was asking them, where's all the other parents, for all these people? And they said they don't have family here, like they don't have anybody. And my wife and I, even though we advocate for our daughter, even though she's a master's, she almost has her master's in special education, and we're well aware of what it takes to raise our daughter and all the challenges. These other folks, they didn't have anyone there to advocate for them. we tried very hard to get services for our daughter, and we finally did. And then when we got services for our daughter, we realized that although there was such competence and the, you know, the people that were in charge of like Arc of Kona or like Jim over at Full Life, where the competency stopped was where someone's hand met my daughter's hand. The people that were responsible for helping my daughter were not competent. And, you know, it was heartbreaking. I want to say it might've been the first day or the second day of a support worker working with my daughter. She's watching television while my daughter is on our 3rd-story roof with suicidal tendencies, among other things. And it was very, well, along with the hope was an inadequacy that we found that, oh my God, these agencies that are here to provide people for us, they can't apparently find people qualified, so that when I hand my precious daughter off to someone else to care for her, then I'm, you know, there's that last hand I'm not confident in. The only thing thank God for consumer directed support, which is the state can provide services so that my wife and I can find people on our own, people that we feel are qualified. Thank God we have that. But for everyone else out there on the Big Island who needs an advocate, maybe I'm the only voice. And I just can't believe that those people that we would call, you know, our nieces, our nephews, and I'm not talking about our nieces and our nephews who have the same skin color. I'm talking about our nieces and our nephews and our uncles and our aunties that live in different families, that have other people with special needs. You know, we're all together here on these islands, and all we have is each other. And people in my community that deserve a helping hand aren't getting it because the hand that is supposed to help them is not qualified. If someone, for example, is going to choose between flipping burgers or helping my daughter, you see the problem there. And I'm using a ridiculous example, right? But there are qualified people out there. We have, my wife and I have a qualified person right now. Her name is Nikki, and she's wonderful. How do these people, where do they come from? You know, we did our own work and we were able to find someone, thank God. I know I'm going over the time.
Yeah,
but,
so Mr. Vieira, this is basically, the bill basically just requires a report on health disparities. It doesn't, it's not
go ahead, sorry.
All it does is it requires Department of Human Services to provide a report on the difference in health disparities between a disabled person and a normal person. It doesn't, I don't think it addresses your concern.
What's your question?
Much.
I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure you're testifying as to the right bill.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I've seen oh, I'm sorry, pardon.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
I am. And
okay.
and I apologize for getting a little bit off. The health discrepancies, I can describe it in this way. The only way I've been able to get care for my daughter is not only off island, but in Palo Alto, California. That's it. There aren't resources for her here. We believe we are here for a purpose. My wife's here for a purpose. She's here to help the community of those with special needs with her upcoming masters and whatnot.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vieira. You're right. You are over your 2 minutes, and we still have to make decision making, and there are a number of people waiting for us to make a decision. So
Thank you
could
for
you wrap it
listening.
up, Mr. Vieira? Or have you,
All
are
I
you
want to
done?
say is, thank you so much for listening, and any support you can give to our family and other families that don't have a voice for their medical needs would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Vieira. Okay, no one else having registered to testify by Zoom. Are there anybody else on Zoom who wishes to testify on SB 2919? This is basically relating to disability health disparity and requires Department of Human Services to provide a report on health disparities. Okay, seeing none. Those who have provided written testimony are James Kilgore, testifying in support for full life. Roy Corpus, testifying in support for full life. Sierra Whiteside, testifying full support for full life and Special Olympics. Lisa Yogi, testifying in support. Written testimony also by Mark Vieira, who also testified live. Questions, members? Senator Misalucha.
Is the person from Department of Human Services still here?
Leah Davis.
Leah?
Oh, Judy Moore Peterson, that's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Judy.
sorry. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. In your testimony, you alluded to the fact that you don't have access to a lot of data, and the Department of Health has those data. So is there a get around a way where you can access that information by requesting, or does this report need to be housed at the Department of Health?
We would certainly defer to our Department of Health colleagues. I don't want to kick it over to them without having a chance to consult with them. But they do have more ready access to data, to the majority of the data that's being requested. And so if we were to take it on, we would turn around and ask them to help us put it together. Efficient and effective, I think, to request or ask the Department of Health to compile this information than to have us do it.
Okay, thank you. The other question I have is, so, and I'm not sure whether you read the testimony from the developmental disabilities.
I did not have an opportunity to read it. No.
Okay, so they're just maybe just off the top of your head, and I know that you didn't have a chance, but they talked about how they're asking that for the purpose of this measure, they would like to have a different, says, hang on, how to define groups of individuals with disabilities. That I guess disabilities is a large category. So for the purpose of this measure, the council hopes whatever data provided accounts for the different experiences brought by different types of disabilities.
Mm.
Do you have any thoughts or insights about that? Is there a specific language that we need to be mindful about that would tighten it so it's less broad?
You may consider adding language that simply reflects what the council noted, which is that there's a broad range of experiences that people have and a broad range of disabilities that people have. As an example, which I think they may be referencing, the developmental disabilities or people with intellectual disabilities, the programs that serve that particular population are actually in the Department of Health with the Division of Developmental Disabilities, whereas people with physical disabilities, they're served more in the programs that my division runs, which is the Medicaid program. And so we provide personal care services as an example, and other services to provide to help people with physical disabilities. So I think I think the point that they're trying to raise is that depending on the kind of disability you have will influence and affect your experience in the world and the kinds of challenges that you may face in accessing health and accessing healthcare.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, members? So the chair has a question of Daintree, Developmental Executive Administrator. Hi. So Daintree, you've heard Judy Moore Peterson, and you folks are with Department of Health. What if we make you folks do the report? And maybe put in an appropriation language so you folks can RFP or contract out the report to UH to gather all the data that is with MedQuest, along with like HMSA and the like.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just to be clear, we are an attached agency to the Department of Health. So I do not represent the Department of Health. But if that was something you wanted to put on the Department of Health's shoulders, I would follow up with the Director of Health. And I work with Lauren Kim on that side of it. So we cannot speak on behalf of the Department of Health.
Okay, I understand that, Ms. Bartologis. But as MedQuest Director has pointed out, they only have information for people who are on MedQuest. And I don't think the Department of Health also has full information because they're not with HMS, they don't have HMSA data, they don't have Kaiser data. So it sounds like it's something that needs to be contracted out.
We're fine with that.
Yeah, but someone needs to do the contracting out, right?
Yes.
As the Council of the Developmentally Disabled, and if we put in an appropriation language to allow for the contracting out, would you folks be able to accept the responsibility of coming up with this apparently very well needed report?
Yes, we would. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any questions from witness members? Okay, seeing none, and that's the last bill. May we go into a breakout room?
Starting up the room. Give me one moment.
Thank you very much. Recalling HMS Human Services meeting for decision-making, 3 p.m. calendar for SB 2002. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. We are going to accept the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission amendments to amend Section 3 of the bill to attract and codify that which is already on the Hawaii Administrative Rules 12-46-306 sub A. And we're also going to have, no, I think I'm just going to accept that because that's already administrative rules. Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Vice Chair for the vote, Chair votes aye.
We're voting on this agenda, Senate Bill 2002 to pass with amendments. Chair San Buenaventura votes
Aye.
Vice Chair Ihara votes aye. Senator Ocasio,
Aye.
Senator Misalucha,
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. So SB 2194, because of the conflict with the ADA law, Chair's recommendation is to defer it indefinitely. So we're going to move on to SB 2437. Chair's recommendation is to pass it with amendments we're gonna accept the Senate Majority SMA's recommendations on proposed amendments, which are mostly tech amendments. Any questions, comments? And there's, yeah, and add in, wait a second. No, it's already a blank appropriation. It's my understanding. So we don't need to defect the date to it. Okay, any questions, comments? Seeing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair votes aye.
We're voting on Senate Bill 2437 to pass with amendments. All members are present. Any reservations or objections? Otherwise, I'll cast an aye vote for all members present. The measure is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. For SB number 2919, Chair's recommendation is to pass it with amendments on line 1, page 1, instead of Department of Human Services, we are going to replace that with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We are also going to add a section 2 to say basically that there is going to be a blank appropriation for the purposes of this bill, and remove and section 2 and add in a defect date, because there's probably going to be a re-referral to WAM. Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair votes aye.
Any reservations or objections to the recommendation to pass Senate Bill 2919 with amendments? The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, we are adjourned.